Lios enchim anyavu. Greetings, everyone. May the Creator bless you all. And welcome to my podcast, the Good to E Medicine Podcast. I'll be your host, Pete Rodriguez.
All my native people stand up. All my native people stand up.
Let's see, what's today? Saturday, September 30th. So welcome to the podcast, Snowbird Rodriguez. It's almost like my last name, Rodriguez, but yours is with the
Right.
Q.
Like a little bit of you, yeah.
I'm finally glad to have you on the podcast. I know we're going back and forth. You know what? I'm
Yeah.
really curious because you're at a different time zone. Where are you located? Really quick. I'm in Tucson,
So,
Arizona. Arizona time is kind of weird. Right now it's 3:18 and we don't observe
daylight
daylight
savings.
savings time, but
Yeah.
it's the same time in California as here, but we're in a different time zone. But you're central,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Oh, yep. So it's about 5:18 here,
Uh-huh.
and I'm on the Cheyenne and Arapaho land out here in El Reno, Oklahoma, just right outside of
right.
Concho. So I'm just right off their actual res out here. Shout out to the
Oklahoma.
Arapaho people. Yes, it's beautiful land out here. Truly incredible people. All good things. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, I'm so happy you're here, Snowbird. Really quick, if you could introduce yourself, if you have a tribal affiliation,
Yeah.
for our listeners, that would
Yes.
be
So I
great.
know a lot of people introduce themselves in their language. I'm learning my language, our language, a lot more, but I'll give it a go. Leosin Shani Abu Ketchamalea, Inipo Sapa Wiketea, Inipo Yaqui. Am I saying it right? Yaqui Pueblo. Actually, I
Yeah.
would say Yaqui. I would say my Pueblo and then say Hoak, right?
Yep.
I'm still learning now. Bear with me.
No, that
So,
sounded perfect.
thank you. I'm working on it. Shout out to our language keepers, seriously.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's really who, they help keep us alive. So it's very important. So in English, my name is Snowbird Rodriguez. I live here in Oklahoma. I am Yaqui and Apache, and I'm a dancer. I'm a jingle dress dancer at powwows, old style, and I make all different types of regalia, from dance regalia to like just different traditional regalias and beadwork. I don't really choose like what I work on or like what comes to me. It really does just come to me, those visions. And like moccasins, for instance, I tried for a long time to try to figure out moccasins and I could not figure them out. So I just gave up. But when my nephew, I started working on these moccasins, like I just had this vision to do it. And it was for my nephew. My sister went into labor and I made these moccasins. So
Wow.
again, those things really just come to me like that. So yes. And yeah, I'm glad to be here and talk with you guys.
Well, thank you. I know we kind of not really met in real life, IRL, I like to put, but I know we were on Facebook and I kept seeing your work and your beadwork and also your dancing. And I said, oh, she's tribal, she's Yoeme, she's Yaqui. So I was like, I gotta have her on the podcast. It was like almost a year. So it's like
I know it's been a long time for us to get this going.
So this is awesome. So I'm really excited.
Yeah,
but I know we didn't have a chance. I did like to check out the bio too much, but I know you're in Oklahoma. What else? I work here for our Pasco Yaqui tribe. I work in I guess our HR. I'm just gonna put it that way. I work in human resources here at the tribe. I've been here for 28 years. Do you do anything else, or is that your main work is working with the with your with your craft, I guess, your what you do there in Oklahoma,
Yeah,
or do you even
craft is
want to
a good word.
say?
No, craft is a good word.
Okay.
Um, no, yeah, I work full time. I am a
Okay.
banker. I'm a personal banker. I'm hoping
Ooh,
to sit for the evaluation. It's pretty intense. It's like a banking bar, and for to
nice.
become a senior personal banker. So that's a really big deal for me. It's really intense. You have to know every federal regulation pertaining to banking financial institutions, you know, what they stand for, their acronyms, when they apply, how they apply, just all of that kind of stuff. It's really intense, but I really, really enjoy it.
Oh,
It's good.
that's neat.
I like numbers. I'm a kind of a numbers person. And so that's what I do for work. I have a son. He is 12 years old,
Oh,
and he experiences high functioning autism, and he's the greatest guy ever. He's a gamer and a YouTuber, and he's a real good guy. So
that's cool.
that's my other stuff that I do.
Yeah, my son's older. He's 27, but he's also a gamer. He loves games. And I have
Yeah.
another friend. He's really cool too. He's also a banker, but he lives in Southern
Okay.
California. Um,
Okay.
maybe you guys should chat. But he's also indigenous. But that's cool. I didn't know you were a banker. That's so neat.
Yeah.
I have another friend, actually one of my colleagues, he works with me. He worked with Charles Schwab. I think that's the way you pronounce it. But he's all
Okay.
into numbers too. And I'm like, I can't even balance my checkbook. I can't.
So,
I can't. I'll just like get to the end and it's always off. And all I do is just put adjusted, boop, and I make it balance.
make it
I'm
enough.
I make it balance, or I'll put negative. Or
Yeah,
if it's like negative or positive, I always want it to be like positive, and I'll think, okay, that's cool, and I'll make
you're
it
like, that's
balance.
all.
But
Just as long as it's
it
positive,
never,
that's a
it never balances my checkbook. Never once in I don't know how long.
well, they
Uh,
say that math is a universal language. So
True. And today is officially, which is awesome, meant to be. Today is International Podcast Day.
wow.
Oh, we're
Okay.
doing
Look
this
at
on
that.
International Podcast Day, so that's awesome. Okay, Snowbird, thank you for letting us know a little bit about yourself and where you're from and what you do. Now, the next question I have for you, do you have anything you want to share with us, like a maybe a personal story or something, a message or anything that you want to share with our listeners, and something that you want to share that you really really want to for people to know about Snowbird, that you don't mind sharing with our audience?
Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you. So there's a lot I want to share, honestly. I think that I will start with where the ancestors started to really come to me, because
Mm-hmm.
that's where it really sent me on this journey of, you know, finding out more in depth of who we are, who my people, my bloodline is, and my father's story. Um, and so I'll start there. When my
Okay.
son was, well, first, I guess I will say the only time I ever went to a powwow was in the desert. I believe we were in Arizona, and we drove. I lived on the Four Corners area like most of my life,
Yeah.
well, most of my young life. And then when I was almost 12, I left and went up to where my mom's family and stuff is from. Um, so the only time I'd ever seen a powwow is when we drove for a long, long way and we crossed over. It was the Paiute, I believe, that we were going to see.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the only time I'd ever seen a powwow until I was a lot older. So I didn't understand or know anything like the origins of the dances or what they meant, any of that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When my son was about 3, 4 years old, he was really struggling with a lot of things with speech and socialization and food aversion. He was having a really hard time. And I had a dream that I was standing in a very old mirror, and there was an elder standing behind me, and I was wearing a jingle dress. I didn't even know it was called a jingle dress at the time. I was calling it a fancy dress.
Mm-hmm.
And this elder, I was looking in the mirror and I could see her behind me, and I could see myself in this dress. And the elder, she and I have to take that back, because it really wasn't an elder. It was
Okay.
honestly somebody that I do know, and it was kind of crazy that this person was in my dream telling me this stuff. So what she told me, though, is that if I danced, that I would be healing somebody's heart for losing a baby, and that I would be healing my son's brain in a lot of ways. And when I woke up, I knew that it was not a dream, because for one, my whole life I've had special things happen to me, and those kind of abilities. So I knew as soon as I woke up, it was not just a dream. It was really intense, and it meant something. I could still feel it, like it was still there.
Okay.
And so right after that, I reached out to a family member, and told them, a family member out here in Oklahoma, who knows about powwoways. And I told them this dream that I had, and they were pretty shook, because first of all, it wasn't a fancy dress. It's called a jingle dress, and it's quite literally a medicine dress and
Mm-hmm.
a medicine dance. And that dance came about from the Ojibways. And a father's child was sick, and he was given the same kind of a vision in a dream, that if he made these Copenhagen shell cones, they're cones, that the sound of the vibration, it would heal his child. And so he made this dress, and he had them dance, and it healed her. And so he passed this dance on for all Indigenous people to do. He gave that permission to all peoples to do this dance. And again, I didn't know any of this. So when I was told this, I already knew it was real, but it just, every time something happens that brings confirmation, I don't know why I'm still surprised, but I am.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing those
Yeah,
stories. You know what? A lot of our listeners are kind of feel the same way when it comes to um like native ways, Yaqui, not just tribal Yaqui, but a lot of listeners are well, they're native indigenous people, but they always want to know more about their, I guess, indigeneity,
yeah,
or they're trying to research and learn more. And a lot of times they thank me for having the podcast or having guests as yourself on the podcast talking about their experiences, and they get inspired by guests like yourself, or talking about their stories and how they get in touch with their ancestors. Like I mentioned earlier before we were talking, one of the biggest things I like to do is like to honor my ancestors. And I always say that when I, in my, usually in my bios, like if I know some of my bios, I always put down that I'm always honoring my ancestors and everything that I do, even through this podcast or everything that I do externally, I'm always honoring my ancestors. I even have a picture of in my office, and up here you can even see those. I know that our audience is not going to see um, this. It's going to be an only audio podcast, but up here I have my mom and dad, and way back here, these are my
yeah,
ancestors up here, my great grandfather and great grandmother up here, and they're all Yaqui. It's an old black and white picture of my uncles, just like the only one I have here. So I'm always
yeah,
honoring them, and I know they're always watching over me and us
yeah,
and everyone. But
yeah.
yeah,
It's so
thank you for
important.
sharing that. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
And I love
uh,
the dreams. A lot
yeah,
of them come to us in our dreams, and they're like, "Well, that's they're dreams," and I don't. I'm like, "Yes,
no,
but
yeah,
they're real.
yeah,
That's the way they communicate sometimes as well." And
yeah,
I don't know if you watched Reservation Dogs, any of the episodes, but they they touch a lot of that in the episodes. They show their like the dreams coming in, their ancestors. I don't know.
yeah.
Do you watch that show?
So I watched the first season, but I have not gotten to the second
The
season yet.
second.
I've been studying so much, and
Mm,
I'm working on something right now that's going to be so sick.
ooh.
Definitely something so different. and
That's
I'm
cool.
excited to get that out. So yeah, I haven't watched the second season. I
Okay,
wanted
then
to add.
I won't give no
Oh,
spoilers, but they always show
okay.
like your ancestors standing behind you
Yeah,
or coming to you and talking to you, and they're like, who are they talking to? Well, they're talking to your
yeah,
ancestors. They're real.
uh,
I can see
yeah.
them. They're right there. But yeah, so thank you. Do you have another story? I know you were gonna
Well,
talk
I was
about
just gonna say I wanted to
bef-
add to that that right
okay.
after, like a couple of days after I
Mm-hmm.
had this dream, I never beaded before. I never sewed anything. I never did anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I started having these like overwhelming like images in my head of how to do all these things. I started beading like right away and flat stitch, and nobody had ever taught me any of this stuff. My mom had an old sewing machine. She was visiting. I think she was actually out in the Four Corners. She was visiting my brother out there, and she wasn't there to teach me. So I just pulled down her old sewing machine and I watched a YouTube video on how to thread it because I didn't even know how to thread it. And I made my first ribbon skirt, I would say within the first week. So again, those it's creator, of course, and but I also believe, it's also our ancestors too. They wanted me to do this dance. Creator wanted me to do this dance. And he made all that possible for me by giving me all of that knowledge.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. And you have, and I'm also going to, and you have the, I know on your, I know it's mostly, I'm on social media. I know I've seen some of your work, and I
Mhm.
think you have done even some other like fashion shows. I know have you gotten into those? Maybe you can
So
talk a little
yeah,
bit about that because I know I've seen some of your, I don't know if they're reels, but I've seen some of your, like, I guess they're real or videos on
it's
Facebook,
called
and I've seen
TikTok video.
we can
Yeah.
do that, and I can, if you want after the interview, you can share your social media um,
Yeah, I can do
handles. That
that.
way, people can find your work, and also your the dance the ribbon skirts. I know I've seen some of your beadwork and some of the other work, and I think you do some fashion shows too, which is really
So
cool.
yes,
So I'm hoping
yes. So,
that's really going well for you. Maybe you could talk a
so
little bit about that for our listeners as well.
it is going really well. I was invited to be part of the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women fashion show, and I
Mm,
had my stuff in it, and it was really amazing. My business is called Yaqui Woman Designs,
right,
and
that's right.
um, yeah, so it's really cool. And I actually want to say that I'm finishing up this piece right now, and I have one more order for an awesome photographer who helped me out. I have to do a hat for him. But
Okay.
after that, I'm actually doing some Yaki, his and hers matching beaded hats set. And I'm going to be raffling that stuff off because I think I really want to give back to like our Yaki community. There's not a lot of beaders like that, not my style of beading. And
Hmm.
so I just really want to make some cool stuff and get it out there for people.
That's awesome. I remember now. Now it's coming back to me. I've been so busy here with our business and stuff. So I remember, and I haven't been on social media a lot. Well, I have, but it's been really busy. But I remember seeing all those designs and the hat too. And you were doing something like a raffle as well. Those are really, really cool. Because
Thank
the
you.
Yaqui people, especially the let's see, the older elders, I know they combine a lot of the culture with different cultures here, but they did the Yaqui traditional, they did a lot of embroidery. Do you do embroidery? That's really cool too. I
So
haven't, because I don't
yeah,
know anything about, I mean, my mom, she's full Yaqui. She was a seamstress. That was her trade. So she would make dresses. She would make like she was more into because we kind well, if you know the Yaqui culture is kind of combined within Mexico and it's combined a
mhm,
little bit with the Mexican
yeah,
culture.
I
So
have a lot of influence.
she would make the ballet folklorico dresses for my
Yeah,
sister because she would dance in that, and they used a lot of the ribbons and things. It's almost similar,
yeah.
but
It's
that's what
very simple.
that's what my mom did. She was a seamstress, and she would make those dresses. And like you said, no one taught her. She just started making them, and she would make these beautiful dresses, and other people would want her to make dresses as well. But and
Yeah,
embroidery too, it looks really, really intense. Well, I don't know anything about. I mean, it'd be cool to learn, but I don't know anything about sewing or beading or embroidery. But it's so neat. I did want to mention that tribe, Yaqui, UMA people, we're so talented, so talented.
yeah,
Almost everyone I meet there, either they do artwork, very talented artists, crafts, carving, painting, beadwork, any type of
yeah.
art or any kind of music. They're really, really, really talented. I've met a lot of talented people here through the podcast, and they always have like a natural talent to design and create things. It just comes natural, I believe, to our people.
I agree. We have some incredible artists. I'm honestly
Mhm.
blown away all the time when I get on Facebook and see these painters and yeah, there's
Yeah.
incredible people. And I even put our language keepers and teachers in that same category. So yeah. And
Awesome.
as far as the embroidery, that's been one of the biggest things heavy on me. And it's just it's like whenever I get a vision on things or a project or something, it weighs on me until I get it. And I actually just got a sewing machine that is specific for embroidery because I
Ooh,
really want to start making our regalia. So yeah, I'm on it.
that would be awesome. I can't wait to see. Well, I love all your work, but I know embroidery is really big. If you notice the traditional Yaqui dresses, they have a lot of
Hmm.
embroidery on the handkerchief for the men, the shirt. And if you could like put your own
Yeah.
snowbird creativity, combine the patchy, the her
Yeah.
area influences,
Temporary.
and oh
Yes.
man, it's gonna be so nice. It's gonna be so cool. We're almost halfway through our interview, so before we go on, is there a key message or something you really want to share with our audience? It could be something personal. It could be a message you want to share. It could be a little bit of history or something that's really been influential or about you, and maybe that you want to share that you don't mind sharing with us and our audience. Maybe something that I haven't asked that you're like, well, gosh, I wish Pete would have asked me. Just something you want to share with us. Please, I really love hearing our our guests and stories they want to share with us because it's all about storytelling. It's really big. That's why I love this format, podcasting, audio podcasting. It gives us a chance for me, not only me, but our guests to tell our stories, our creation, our stories, our history, our, our family history, our ancestors, and it carries on that tradition like we used to do, oral tradition, but now I can do it through a podcast. And this is going
Mhm.
to be live and it's going to be shared and it's going to be kind of keeping that tradition,
Yeah.
and I'm doing it through podcasting. That's another reason I really like doing podcasts because we get to share our stories. So I'll stop talking and I'll let you share.
No, you're good. And thank you. And honestly, I want to take a moment and just
Hmm.
thank you personally because it's because of this interview that really sent me on this, this search, this journey of learning my father's story and learning it in detail. Because
Hmm.
he always told us and we knew, the key points of it and everything. But for me, it's so incredible that I found all of this. So I want to thank you right first. And I'll start off with saying um that my dad was I want to say how old my dad was so that the dates kind of make sense to you guys because it's
Okay.
it's kind of crazy. My dad was actually born in 1930.
Oh,
So he was a lot older than my mom, and he died when he was 62. I was only 6 years old. So I hope that'll kind of make a little bit more sense for you guys when I share the dates and everything. So let's first
okay.
talk about my my dad's mom. Her name is Maria Luisa, and she was born in 1899, and she was born in Parel, Mexico, and she has Yaqui parents. Her father was Chino Rayo, which is curling lightning, and he fought alongside Zapata in the Mexican Revolution, and he died in that in that war as well. When Maria Luisa and my grandma, I just call her Grandma Luisa, so that's what you guys will hear me call her that. When my grandma was little, she went to be basically like a servant in these European people's home, and they also educated her like it was yeah. I don't know all the history of the boarding schools and education and how those things happened. So if anyone wants to reach out to me and share more on that, because there's not a lot that's talked about on the other side of their invisible border of regarding like residential schools and boarding schools and stuff like that. All I do know is that she was sent there and she was a servant there. She was also educated by these people as well. And when her dad, my great grandpa Chino, when he died in the Mexican Revolution, she was sent back to her village in Parel with her family. And she had really come accustomed to that lifestyle that she was in. And she was not happy to go back to what she always referred to as a mud hut. And she had a lot of prejudice. And I understand it because I understand it from a more educated kind of understanding, if you will. You know, colonial oppression and those things have done a lot of things to make us feel ashamed of who we are. And, you know, they really had a slogan to kill the Indian and save the man. And that's what they tried to do. But we all are still here. So, so yeah, so she went back to her village there, and then I guess I'll stop there and I can go on to my grandpa, my dad's father. Do you want me to just jump right into it?
Yes, just
Okay.
jump right in. And a cool fact, my grandmother's name is Maria Luisa.
No way. Okay, that's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And you have the same last name? Watch us end up being related. Hey.
I know, I'm thinking like that.
I
So
know.
it could be we're all related anyways. All my
Right.
relations are
Yes.
related somehow. So yeah, but her name
Very
was
true.
Luisa, Maria Luisa.
Wow, that's
But yeah,
crazy.
go ahead and continue. I'm
Okay.
just listening
So
over here.
yeah. So my grandfather, my dad's father, his name is Aurelio Standing Tree. And he was born in the Sierra Madres in one of the last free villages of our people. And I knew this story when I was growing up, but I never knew how important that is and what that really means and who I really descend from. It is so much more powerful than I can actually even put into English words. He was a baby when his mom took him off of the mountain and went down to the village, down to the Yaqui village, Kokori. I'm probably saying it, I'm butchering it, y'all.
No,
Please
that's
don't laugh at
perfect.
me. So that is the village that they come from. But when my grandpa, when Aurelio was, because he, when they came down, from the mountains, my grandma gave him, I get, a last name of Rodriguez. And when my grandpa was, I'm not sure how old, but he started working on the railroad, and he put away some money and he bought himself a car, and he went into Chihuahua and down into Parel, and he went through the village. My grandma calls it the mud hut village, in this, what she thought was the most shiniest, beautiful car, that she had ever seen, with this man that just looked probably like $1 million. So she was in love instantly, and they married, and they had children, of course. Obviously my father. And so it was just so incredible, though, for me to really learn this history in detail like this, and to really, go on this journey of learning about my father and his story. and, you know, finding the details of it, actually finding the area, finding the specific village, you know, that he was talking about. And Pueblo, you know, we call it that today. It's insane. Like, that's my dad, like his dad. I'm a direct link from the last free native people, and it's incredible. And I always remember my father, my dad, telling us to be good coyotes, and I never knew what that meant either until you sent me on this journey, Pete. So again, thank you. My whole life, everything was measured by coyotes.
Oh,
Everything was,
cool.
be a good coyote, think like a coyote, and move like a coyote, because we are the coyote people. I always thought it meant we're Coyote Clan, but I don't think Yoeme people really call ourselves clans. I think it's different. So that never ever changed my whole life. I've always, you know, it's been really important to me, and it's been a part of who I am. And finding all of this stuff, I found out what he meant by coyote and where he comes from, and the significance that those people that lived in the mountains had with the coyote, and how it kept our people alive.
That's really interesting. A lot of people don't know, but there is a coyote society within the Yaqui people. It's not a
Yeah,
clan, but I guess you could,
yeah,
if for a lack of a better word, it would be a coyote society within the
yeah.
Yaqui people. So
Yes, I
that's probably where that's coming from.
it's gotta be. I actually asked a language keeper a long time back. It was Cesar, I believe. I asked him if we had clans, like if we were clans, and he said no, that would be like society. But
Hmm.
even again, still, it was like, okay, I heard it and it was cool. You know, I was like, oh, that's cool. But learning my dad's history like this, and learning about the coyote and all of that stuff, and how it was so significant to our people who were in the mountain up there, um it just, it's crazy. So they had my dad, and my dad's name is Ernie Rodriguez. He was born 1930. And so I kind of already let you guys know my grandma Louisa's point of view on indigenousness, you know, and on, you
Hmm.
know, native ways and things like that. She, you know, that colonial oppression was really there for sure, and she was ashamed of it. So
Hmm.
with my dad and hers relationship, it was not a great relationship, because my dad was wild, as she called him. And um he was strong in like his, I don't even know what you would call it, just his identity, you know. And they really butted heads because of that. And so my dad left really, really young, and he spent a lot of time in prison. He had a really, really hard life. He was also a very extreme man. So again, he spent 11 years in San Quentin. When he was really young, he went in for burglary and other things like that. And he did 5 years in San Quentin. And he got out on parole. And he wasn't even out 60 days. And he got in a fight with a man in a bar. And he beat that man so bad. And by the time they pulled him off, he was scalping that
Hmm.
man. Yeah, he was literally
Wow.
scalping that man. So he went back to prison for another 6 years for mayhem. And then he got out, and he met some Plains natives, some sun dancers, what they call the Red Road, and which
Hmm.
is kind of crazy that I am now out here on their land, which is crazy.
Hmm.
But he met those people, and they showed him sun dancing and sweat lodges and the Red Road, and it really changed who he was. So by the time he met my mom and had, you know, children with my mom, he was already on that Red Road, and, you know, reconnecting with his with just the identity of being indigenous, you know. um and so that's how that came to be. And they had 7 children. I'm the youngest girl, second youngest child. And my dad did die really young, but he didn't let us forget who we were and those stories. And now I've been able to confirm them and really track them down through actual paper, like documents, not just stories. And it's so amazing. Um, but yeah, so that is how how we came to be. Like I said, we didn't forget who we were.
Right.
My older brothers and sisters, unfortunately, my family really has statistics, has really has been in my family for sure as far as incarceration, missing and murdered Indigenous people. My sister is a part of that. My sister Anna, rest in peace. And then suicide. So
Mm-hmm.
I have multiple brothers who have committed suicide, and then my sister, my oldest sister, again is part of the MMIW. So even though they're gone now too, I do have an older brother, Jesse, and he still keeps old ways. He still remembers my dad, and he remembers the stories, and you know, yeah. So we haven't forgotten. We are a direct link to the last free people. My dad was born to the last free, not the last, but one of the last free people, and it's so incredible. So I really have to thank you again and again, because I'm just so proud to be a descendant of these incredible individuals and our people, just who we are. We really are. I mean, I'm biased, but I just think we are the best, coolest people ever, with the one of the most rich, incredible histories. And yeah, so thank you guys. That is my key message here, is that our ancestors will not let us forget. And if
Right.
you ask and pray on it, they will come to you and they'll remind you of who you are, because we are the indigenous people of these lands. We didn't cross borders, borders crossed us. We are older than the concept of blood quantum, of
Right.
borders, any of those things. We are the Yoeme people, a people who speak with authority.
All my native people stand up. All my native people.
Exactly. Woo, I love it, Snowbird. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, the blood quantum, a lot of people ask me, and they ask also on my website, how can I, they always ask the blood quantum. I say, well, if you're Yaqui, if you have even a little drop of blood, you're Yaqui, you're our brothers and sisters. You don't need to have that whatever justification or things like that,
Right.
or that number enrollment. That's all colonial stuff, even the blood quantum
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, it was a generational plan of genocide. That
Yeah,
is
genocide.
exactly,
It keeps going lower and lower till there's nothing left. Well, in a couple
and that was their plan. Yeah,
couple 10, 20 years,
yeah,
if it keeps this way, a lot of the tribes are gonna be no longer. It's gonna be thinned out till nothing's left. So yeah,
yeah,
even I talk about it on my podcast. And I think one of my first episodes, I was like, that's a colonial construct. It's the
yeah,
blood quantum thing. So
yeah,
don't even think about that. Just do your research, connect with your family, your ancestors, do exactly what you're doing, and their keep them alive, in everything you do.
yeah, definitely.
Exactly.
My dad's
And don't forget, that they're always going to be around and with you.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
exactly. And you can call on them, they will come. My
Mm-hmm.
dad's mom came down with I mean, I'm sorry, uh my my dad's grandma came down
Mm-hmm.
with her with his dad Aurelio when he was a baby, like I said. But she left a lot of I didn't write that down. I'll have to get that number again. But she left several older children up there and lots of family. And when way into like the late like 40s and everything, into I believe even into the 50s, but I'll
Mm-hmm.
have to check my dates with my family and stuff again. But then they came over through like through Chihuahua. I'd probably say that wrong, but through Chihuahua.
Chihuahua. Mm-hmm.
Yes, up into Texas, and then over the rest of them went over into LA, which is where my dad was actually born.
Wow.
Yes.
Actually, our
So
our our kind of like our history is similar. Rodriguez. Maybe we are like kind
I
of.
feel like we low key have got to be related
I
because there's
know,
no
because my
way.
my
Maria Luisa
grandfather,
and the last name's Rodriguez.
my
That's crazy.
grandfather, on my dad's side, he came over from Mexico into Texas, Corpus Christi, and settled in Corpus Christi, Texas. And that's where he raised his family. My dad was born.
Yeah,
And well, they worked in not the railroad, but they worked in mostly migrant farmers, cotton farmers. That's why we see
yeah,
a lot of the Yaqui villages here in Arizona. Well, now Arizona, they follow I guess, the interstate, the
yeah,
railroad, which is right
yep.
next to the interstate. So if you notice, it comes from Nogales all the way up down to Tucson, up to Phoenix, and you notice it's following the railroad and
The
the
crops.
freeways, yeah, the crops, and it goes all the way up into guess
Yeah.
where? LA, up there to
Yes.
Fresno, to um all the way up north to the Fresno area, to Stockton, California. All my
Yeah.
family's there. My uncle is back in I would say, what is it? Middle, I guess, Central California, and his name is Arguello too.
Okay.
So
So
that's
yeah.
kind of we're
And that's
probably
honestly how my family got out there as well.
yeah. A lot of families are like
Yeah.
that and
Yeah, they
similar.
followed
They
the
followed
orchards
that.
actually. That's what it was. My
Mhm.
grandpa really worked in the orchards. That's what he
Yep.
did.
And the Yaquis are some of the hardest, if not the hardest, workers ever,
Absolutely.
ever.
Absolutely.
They're the only ones that would work from sunrise to sundown in 110 degrees in the
Yes.
railroad, in the cotton fields, and they wouldn't complain. Actually, the
Yeah.
farm, the white, I want to say white owners and all of
Yeah.
these railroads, they even sought out Yaqui men and women
Hey,
to work
I gotta say something about that because
because
that's
they
kind of
knew
crazy.
they would kick butt and they would work their
Right.
asses off. No complaints. No one else would
Absolutely.
do that much work. Only the Yaqui people.
So I don't know if other UMA families did this, but my dad, and my mom kept this alive. She had us do
Mm-hmm.
this. When it would get over 100 plus, even up to
Mm-hmm.
118 degrees, my dad would have us get up and walk, and we'd walk in the desert in the heat. And they said it would make your heart really strong. So while other people were suffering, we would be strong. And
Right.
yeah, and I believe that that's true.
I know
So
people trip
I
out.
love that.
Yeah, I know people trip out. Like my dad's 88 and he works right now. He drives himself to work. He works part time and he's 88 years old. I
Yeah,
thrive in the sun. I'm a sun worshiper. So I
same. I
love the
always a
sun.
desert Indian. I cannot. I don't. Once it drops below 75, I can't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So
don't like the cold. It's like horrible. But
yeah,
we're desert people. We love the sun. We thrive in the sun and
yes.
the heat.
Desert Indians for sure.
Definitely. Yeah, and there's a lot of people that don't realize, well, do you guys live in teepees? No. Do you guys have moccasins? No, not really. In the desert, you're not going to be wearing moccasins.
Right.
It's too hot. We have mud,
Yeah.
adobe, things like
Yeah.
that. We have sandals, huaraches, some people call them, things like that. But it's different than like
It is different.
Central or Plains Indians or East Coast. It's different, but we're
But
all
that's
native.
isn't that always the natives that are like fetishized? You know what I mean? That's the very I want to
Right.
say stereotypical, but that sounds kind of derogatory towards them because it's not their fault that
You're right.
you're that they
I
tend
have,
to fetishize them. But they
yeah,
do, they get us all under
the
the
same.
same little umbrella. Yes, it's crazy because there are
Yeah,
millions of indigenous peoples and no,
yeah,
we do not all live in teepees and
yeah.
uh, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
there's Arizona. There's 21, and most um Indian tribes and all the other states. We have 21 um Indian tribes here, and they're
Yeah.
all desert. Because we have to survive in the
Yep.
desert, and we've adapted. But yeah, we don't. We have like sandals, the mud
Hmm.
huts. I remember my Nana. She lived in adobe because it's really cool in the in the summer, the adobe.
Mm,
It's really cool, and it stays warm in
keeps you
the
real
winter.
warm. Yeah.
Yeah, so they would make
Yeah.
those mud huts like your grandmother used to
Yeah.
say, the mud huts. But I know what they are.
Don't
They're
go back
adobe.
to that mud hut village.
Yeah, I can make me one. That'd be cool. But those are really good memories, and I really appreciate
Yeah.
you sharing those and really keeping their memory alive. That's by doing that. And
Yes.
I know
Thank you.
people are gonna really love your story and connection. So that brings me to one of my next or last questions is,
Okay.
let's see, how Snowbird, if somebody wanted to connect with you or listen to you or maybe check out some of your designs or work, how can they connect with you? That way I can, after the podcast, the episode is over, I can add those to the show notes, maybe Instagram.
Yeah.
I ask our guests, and it's usually maybe a social media handle, whichever one you prefer. Probably the easiest in sharing your email or phone number or a website where they can find some of your designs. If you want to
Yeah.
share those with us right now, maybe they can get in touch with you, or maybe get some of your artwork, or maybe they want to connect with you and know a little bit more. Or how did you find out about your lineage, your history? A lot of people are really interested in finding
Yeah.
more about the Yaqui people, where they came from. Unfortunately, a lot of it ends like in Mexico. They didn't keep a lot of records, or the Yaqui were hunted down
Yeah.
and killed. So a lot of people did change their name, like from their indigenous name to Rodriguez. Rodriguez. They took on Mexican surnames just to survive, so they wouldn't be hunted down. But that's another part of the podcast or another. But do you have somewhere where people can maybe a point of contact, maybe a social media
So
site or
yeah.
handle?
So I
Maybe you could
have a
share
lot of
those with
that.
us.
And
Yeah, share them
I
with us, and
even
then
be
I'll
willing.
add them.
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. And with my family and stuff, that I'm very, very blessed because my dad kept those stories alive
Mm-hmm.
for us. So, and he was so specific in his details of what Pueblo it was, what area it was, where he went, and because of that, and because they came over the border, my
Mm-hmm.
grandpa came over multiple times. Um, there was a lot of paper trail, there was. So I am
Okay.
really, really lucky that my dad was a direct descendant of that person off the mountain. So the stories, what I mean by that is the stories didn't have to go far. It was a direct link. So I know that so many of our people, it, there's really not a way for us to reconnect as far as on paper. But again, that's not what's important. And of course, it solidifies it. It makes it just like wow and mind blowing when you get those confirmations. But the ancestors will bring you back. They will. But as far as getting a hold of me, and
Yeah.
I also want to say that I really encourage people to reach out to me about my story. If you know anything, if you know more about the Yaquis that came over out of the mountains, into Texas, if you know more about those stories, I would love to hear and to learn more. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
hungry for that knowledge. And you guys can find me. My Instagram is Yaqui Woman Designs. My
Okay.
TikTok is Yaqui Woman. It's just at Yaqui.woman.
Okay.
And my Facebook is under Snowbird Aquaia. Um, but you honestly can find it even by just looking up Yaqui Woman Designs or Yaqui Woman. It usually pops up. But I know Pete, you'll leave like an actual link
I
down
will.
there, a little, so they can see how it's
I'll
spelled and all that.
Yes, after the podcast is posted, I'm going to leave the links to all of those right now that you mentioned. So that we would
Cool.
just click them and boom, they'll find you on there. Hopefully they'll connect and you guys can connect. I'm hoping to meet you someday. I want to, one of my little, I guess a bucket list, or I want to meet a lot of the people that I interview. I've met a lot of people through social media. I do Clubhouse. I've met a lot of people in Phoenix and from the East Coast. I went to California. I almost met a couple more people that I've interviewed, but we just didn't connect. But I've met some other people that I've interviewed on the podcast. Just doing conferences and things like that. So I think we're gonna meet one day
I think we will too. I actually really, really want to come down for ceremonies, for our ceremonies, come down for Holy Week.
next week. I mean,
You
next
know,
week, next year.
here, yeah. And I know that there's those art shows and like
Yeah, that would be neat.
yeah, that I really want to come down for that. I seen that on Facebook and I was like, man, I want to come down and be an artist that shows,
It,
stuff down there,
yeah,
and I'd
we
give so
have
much
the
stuff away because that's important.
we have the annual Yaqui Festival of the Arts. It's
Yeah.
ongoing. I think we're in our 5th year, and that's done in early spring when it's nice and cool. So that would be neat if you could come. I did my first one last year, and I painted some paintings, and
Oh
I got them
wow.
from visions too. Like I was thinking, like
Right.
the deer dancer, and I was thinking of things that I would like to paint, and I want to do something different. So that was really cool. I got to, and I sold one of my paintings, a couple of them, so that was really neat. But
That's
I'm
amazing.
hoping to do it
Absolutely.
again. But I would love to meet you, so that would be perfect. Either come down for the our ceremonies during Holy Week, Quaresma, or even the Festival of the Arts. And
Yes.
yeah, that would be nice. That would be
Yes.
nice.
I'm actually going to Mexico in spring, this next spring, so it might have to be a little bit
Stop by.
later, but I'm actually going to go to the Yucatan, so that's going to be kind of
Oh,
crazy. And I think
the Yaqui have a lot of
yeah, I think I want to
history
bring my
in the
jingle dress
Yucatan.
there, and I want to
That's
dance on
where
that port where they sold us.
that's where I was gonna say that's a lot of our history. The I don't want to say the darker part, but our history is the Yucatan. That's where they took a lot of the our Yaqui people during that period of genocide to be sold as slavery in the Yucatan area.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I
that would be
learned
neat.
that history. And I
And
I thought to myself that I thought it would be incredible to come back, and to dance on that port, and I think that
mhm,
I think that there's so much power in that. It's just incredible. Even if it's just to me and to my
mhm,
ancestors, and to all those people who were sold from that port, and people coming in as well, our Black brothers and sisters, and just
mhm.
all those people, all the negativity that happened on those ports. Um, I'm gonna go back there. I'm gonna go on vacation, living good, and then dance on it. So all good things.
Make sure you share and post it on social media. That would be awesome. And we are back. Okay, so thank you, Snowbird. We are just about wrapping up the interview, so I don't want to take too much of your time. I know we could talk a long time, and hopefully we'll meet you uh, soon in real
Yeah,
life, IRL. I like to meet our most of our hosts. I mean our guests. Hopefully we can meet someday. That would be so awesome. Come down to
yeah.
Tucson, or I can go back over there. I haven't been in your area in Oklahoma. I've been close on conferences and things, so maybe one
Oh
day
yeah,
we
you
can meet.
definitely got to come down here. Come to a powwow then.
That would be awesome. But
Yeah.
yes. So I want to ask you one last question before we end. I always
Okay.
ask one question for our guests. So my favorite one is okay, lastly. So picture this 100 years from today, okay,
Okay.
in the future, someone Googled your name, Snowbird Rodriguez. Um, your name next to the word accomplishment. So Snowbird Rodriguez accomplishments. 100 years from today, we're all gone. What would you wish the results to be from that Google search? Or it's probably not even going to be Google back then. It's
I
kind of
was
like a
just thinking, I
question
wonder what
about,
it'd be called back out
I
like
know it's
that.
probably going to be Google search, going to be some AI search or something. But what
Yeah.
100 years from today, what it's kind of like a legacy. What do you want to
Yeah.
be remembered, or your children's next seventh generations? We always sometimes talk about.
Yeah.
What
And
do you
that's a
want to?
powerful question
Yeah.
because
A lot of
because
people
of
don't
the
think about that.
history, you know.
So yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
So
well, I'll just tell you.
yeah.
Like I'm saying, that's a really powerful question, and I feel that way because of the history that I'm learning from my grandpa,
Hmm.
and so I know how important and how just, man, it is when somebody looks back on that. So I think what I would want to be remembered by and known for is, of course, being a strong UMA woman, Yaqui woman that broke colonial barriers and that, stood up against colonial barriers, colonial oppression, and that the biggest thing that I want to be remembered by is that I reminded our people and all Indigenous people that we are the Indigenous people of these lands, that we didn't cross borders crossed us. And yeah, and then the same thing I said before, that, we're older than all of those colonial concepts. And it doesn't matter if you know and can track down your history, or if you know just a little bit of it. It's so important. We are the Indigenous people, and that's what I want to be remembered by.
Great answer. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Snowbird. That's a great answer. Like I mentioned, I don't think I said this, but on my last, I always say that we, me and you, or
Hmm.
all other Indigenous UMA Yaqui people, we are our ancestors' wildest dream. So they
Yeah.
dreamt that, what do we want for our children, our children's children and grandchildren? We
Yeah.
are right now our ancestors' wildest dreams. So they dreamt like, I want Snowbird, I want Pete, I want everyone to have everything that we didn't have, oppressed and all this. So we are their wildest dreams, and we're living that dream right now, the Yaqui dream. That's what
That's right. The
that's what my
resistance.
that's what my friend Fred always says. We're living the Yaqui dream right now.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And it's
So
true. We
yeah,
are we are the living legacies for sure, but
exactly.
we are the proof that they couldn't get rid of us. It
Yeah.
was attempted genocide, but our who we are is too strong. And so it
Yeah.
didn't work. And we are proof of that. So I love that. We're living the Yaqui dream.
Yeah. And all Indigenous people too. So
Yeah,
perfect.
definitely.
Perfect ending. So thank you, Snowbird, again. We're gonna go ahead and end the podcast, and I'll definitely add all of the social media so that people can find your website, Yaqui Woman Designs. It's really easy to find. And yeah, thank you so much. You know what? Let's take a picture for, I know this is just visual. It's going to be audio only, but I want to take at least a screenshot of the interview.